The evening had settled quietly around us, the kind of peaceful silence that usually brought comfort after a long day. But tonight, it was different. The air felt charged, heavy with anticipation, as if it knew before I did that my world was about to tilt on its axis. Michael and I were sitting in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows that danced gently across the walls. I was curled up on the couch, a book forgotten in my lap, when he turned to me, his expression unreadable. "Sarah," he began, his voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil that would soon spill over. "We need to talk." I set my book aside, a knot forming in my stomach. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light, hoping it was just another minor concern he'd magnify in his usual fashion. "It's about the house," he said, and paused, as if weighing his next words carefully. "My sister, Emily, and her daughter need a place to stay. They'll be moving in with us." I blinked, trying to process his words. "Moving in? Here? But where will we all fit?" I asked, confusion quickly giving way to concern. He cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. "That's just it. You won't be staying here. I think it's best if you find somewhere else, maybe a cheap apartment or something." His words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" My voice cracked, disbelief coloring every syllable. "You're asking me to leave? Our home?" Michael finally met my gaze, his own eyes cold, distant. "Yes, Sarah. It's for the best. Emily and her daughter need this more than you do." I felt a laugh bubble up, incredulous and tinged with hysteria. "And what about what I need? Michael, my name is on the deed. This is my home too. How can you ask me to just leave?" He shrugged, as if we were discussing something as mundane as the weather, not our lives. "I just think it's the right thing to do, for family." "Your family, you mean?" I shot back, anger beginning to simmer beneath my shock. "And what am I, Michael? Just someone to discard when it's convenient?" He avoided my gaze, a clear sign of his discomfort. "Sarah, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's not like you don't have options. With your inheritance, you can easily find another place." I felt a bitter laugh escape my lips. "So, it's my inheritance now that's convenient for you. Not me, not our marriage, but my financial safety net." Michael looked away, the tension between us palpable. It was then I realized how far apart we had grown, how the man I married had become a stranger, prioritizing his sister's whims over our relationship. "Michael," I said, my voice softening despite myself, "do you not understand the commitment we made? This house, our home, was supposed to be a part of that. I've been paying the mortgage, maintaining everything on top of my own work. Does that mean nothing to you?" He finally met my gaze, his expression a mix of frustration and resignation. "Sarah, it's not about the house, it's about helping family in need." "But aren't I your family too?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. As silence enveloped us, I realized this was more than just a dispute over a living arrangement. It was a reflection of how much we had drifted apart, of how little he valued our life together. I took a deep breath, collecting my thoughts. "Michael, I won't force you to choose between your sister and me, but I refuse to be uprooted from my own home without a say. If you can't respect that, then maybe we need to reconsider this marriage." The look of surprise on his face suggested he hadn't anticipated my resistance. For the first time, it seemed, I had unsettled him. "Sarah, you don't mean that," he finally said, his voice a mixture of disbelief and concern. "I mean every word, Michael. I've compromised enough. It's time you start considering my feelings too." Later, I decided to check out Michael's jacket, which he threw away. My hands, trembling with a mix of dread and determination, stumbled upon a small stash of receipts and business cards. Each piece felt like a stone, adding weight to the sinking feeling in my stomach. I spread them out on the bed, the evidence of Michael's infidelity laid bare in the harsh light of our bedroom lamp. "Why are you going through my things?" Michael's voice, sharp and accusatory, cut through the silence. I hadn't heard him come in. I held up a receipt, my voice steady despite the chaos brewing inside. "Could you explain this, Michael? A hotel receipt dated last Thursday?" My eyes never left his, searching for a flicker of guilt or remorse. He snatched the receipt from my hand, his eyes darting away. It's not what you think, Sarah. It was just a work meeting that ran late. A work meeting? I scoffed, picking up a business card adorned with a too familiar name. And I suppose Samantha here is a new client. My heart raced, each word laced with a bitterness I couldn't conceal. Michael's face hardened. You're being paranoid. It's nothing. Nothing? I couldn't contain the laughter, bitter and hollow. I find receipts for hotels, restaurants, and business cards from women in your pocket, and you expect me to believe it's nothing? He took a step towards me, his expression softening. Sarah, please, I love you. These are just misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. The word echoed mockingly in the room. I looked down at the collection of lies spread out before me, each item a testament to the distance between us. Love doesn't lie, Michael. Love doesn't sneak around, I said, my voice breaking. How long has this been going on? How long have you been lying to me? Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. Sarah, but I didn't want to hear his excuses. Not anymore. The man standing before me was a stranger, his words as hollow as the love he professed. After Michael's cold declaration, I retreated into the sanctuary of our bedroom, a storm of emotions brewing within me. The audacity of his words echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the serene ambience of our shared space. It was there, amidst the chaos of my thoughts, that the idea of the inheritance my parents left me crystallized into a beacon of hope. I hadn't considered it seriously until now, a testament to how drastically circumstances had changed. I dialed my best friend, Ava, needing a sounding board for the whirlwind of plans taking shape in my mind. Hey Sarah, what's up? Ava's voice was a balm, soothing and familiar. I sighed. Ava, you won't believe what Michael just said to me. He wants me to move out so his sister and her daughter can move in. Just like that, as if I have no say in the matter. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. He can't be serious. Doesn't he remember the house is in your name? And what about the mortgage you've been paying? That's just it, Ava. He's acting like I don't matter. But his words got me thinking about the apartment my parents left me. It's worth over $1 million, and the tenants are moving out soon. I could move there, I mused aloud, the idea growing more appealing by the second. The luxury apartment downtown? That place is gorgeous. But Sarah, that's a big move. Are you sure? Ava's concern was evident. I paced the room, the decision weighing heavily on me. I've never been sure of anything. Living here with Michael, under these conditions, it's suffocating. My parents left me that apartment for a reason. Maybe it's time I use it. Ava's voice turned steely, supportive. Then do it. Don't let Michael or anyone else dictate your life. You have the means and the right to start fresh. And who knows, this could be the best decision you've ever made. Encouraged by Ava's words, I felt a newfound resolve. You're right. I'll start making arrangements tomorrow. It's not just about leaving Michael. It's about claiming the life I deserve. And I'll be here for you every step of the way. You're not alone in this, Sarah. Remember that. As the reality of my situation settled in, my mind buzzed with the strategies for my imminent divorce. I knew I couldn't rush. Every step had to be calculated, especially since I was up against Michael, who thought he had the upper hand. But I had something he didn't know about, the deed to the house in my name and my parents' luxurious apartment as my backup. One evening, as we sat in the living room, the tension between us palpable, I decided to broach the subject. Michael, I began, my voice steady. I've been thinking about our situation. He looked up from his phone, his expression one of mild annoyance. Oh, and what have you concluded? He asked, his tone dripping with condescension. I believe it's time for us to consider a divorce, I said, watching his reaction closely. Michael laughed, a cold, unsettling sound. Divorce? You think you can just walk away? Remember, I told you, you're of no use to me anymore. But sure, let's talk about divorce. He smirked, thinking he still controlled the narrative. I nodded, keeping my emotions in check. Yes, divorce. But there's more. I don't intend to fight over the house. I'll leave it to you. I lied, wanting to see how he'd react, knowing full well the deed was safely in my name. His smirk widened. Generous of you. But remember, I said no division of property. You walk away with nothing, he stated firmly, thinking he was setting the terms. That's fine, I replied, my heart racing with the audacity of my bluff. But there's something you should know. I'm willing to leave the house to you, but in return, I want a fair settlement. And before you say anything, remember, the house is in my name. I've been covering the mortgage, Michael. The shock on his face was priceless. What? That's impossible. The house is mine, he blurted out, his confidence wavering. No, Michael, it's been mine, legally, since my parents passed. I've never transferred it to you. And about the mortgage, I have all the records. The room fell silent as the weight of my words sunk in. Michael's face turned red, then pale, as he realized the position he was in. You're bluffing, he finally muttered, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed him. I'm not, and I think it's only fair that if we're ending this marriage, we do so on honest terms. Don't you agree? I pressed, knowing I had the upper hand now. Michael looked away, his earlier arrogance replaced by a sullen defeat. Fine, we'll do it your way, but remember, you're the one who wanted this, he said, trying to salvage some pride. I know, and I'm ready to move forward, I affirmed, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension about the path I was embarking on. The conversation marked the beginning of the end of our marriage. As I went to bed that night, I couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment. I was finally taking control of my life, stepping out of the shadows and into the light. In the quiet of my study, I pored over the evidence I had collected over the past few weeks. The detective's report lay open in front of me, a stark reminder of the lengths I had gone to uncover the truth. It wasn't Emily I had investigated, my mistake in mentioning her previously. It was, in fact, Michael's behavior and his interactions outside our marriage that I had scrutinized. The slip of names was a mix-up in my overwhelmed state, but the focus was always clear: to expose Michael's deceit. The photographs, receipts, and various business cards from women scattered across my desk painted a clear picture of Michael's duplicity. It was hard to digest that the man I married, the man I thought I knew, had been leading a double life. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up a photograph of Michael, caught in a compromising position that left no room for doubt. I had to confront him, but not before I had all my ducks in a row. I arranged the evidence neatly, each piece a building block in the fortress I was constructing around my case for divorce. It wasn't just about leaving Michael. It was about exposing his actions and protecting my interests. The doorbell rang, jolting me from my thoughts. I glanced at the clock, realizing it was time for the meeting I had arranged. Michael was out, and I had invited Ellen over, seeking her support and wisdom. She had always been a mother to me, especially after my own parents passed away. Sarah, is everything all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Ellen's concerned voice filled the room as she entered. Taking a deep breath, I gestured towards the evidence laid out before us. Ellen, I need to show you something. It's about Michael. As we sat down, I walked her through the evidence, her expression shifting from concern to shock to a hardened resolve. I can't believe he would do this to you, to us, she whispered, her voice laced with pain and disbelief. Neither could I, Ellen, but we need to stand strong. I'm planning to file for divorce, and I need you by my side, I said, reaching out to take her hand. Ellen squeezed my hand in return, her gaze firm. You have me, Sarah, always. We'll get through this together. The solidarity in Ellen's voice gave me the strength I needed to face the upcoming battle. With the truth unveiled, it was time to confront Michael and reclaim my life. The path ahead would be challenging, but with Ellen's unwavering support, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. The decision to divorce Michael, once made, felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders, yet the path ahead brimmed with uncertainty. It wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about standing up for myself and facing the storm that was sure to come. I spent the following days preparing, bolstered by Ellen's support. She had become more than just family. She was my ally in the midst of chaos. Together, we reviewed the legal documents, ensuring everything was in order for the battle ahead. The day I decided to confront Michael, the air in our home felt charged with tension. He returned from work to find Ellen and me waiting for him in the living room. An array of documents and photographs spread out on the coffee table. "Sarah, what's all this?" Michael's voice betrayed a hint of nervousness as he glanced from the table to us. I took a deep breath, my resolve steeling. "Michael, I know about the affairs, all of them." I gestured toward the evidence laid out before him. His face paled, eyes darting to the photographs and receipts that chronicled his infidelity. This isn't what it looks like," Michael stammered, but the lie fell flat even to his own ears. "Save it, Michael. I'm filing for divorce," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Ellen spoke up, her tone firm. "We've seen enough, Michael. Sarah deserves better than this, and you know it." The conversation that followed was difficult. Michael oscillated between denial, anger, and pleas for forgiveness, but my decision was unwavering. Ellen stood by me, a pillar of strength, as I explained the terms of the divorce and my intention to keep the house. As Michael stormed out of the house that evening, the finality of our conversation hung heavily in the air. I felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. The end of my marriage was palpable, but so was the beginning of my independence. The days that followed were a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheavals. Ellen and I leaned on each other, finding solace in our shared determination to move forward. The community around us, once oblivious to my private suffering, began to see the truth of Michael's character. As whispers of his actions spread, despite the challenges, I felt a growing sense of empowerment. Each step I took was a step away from the pain and betrayal, and toward a future I would build on my own terms. With Ellen by my side, I faced the storm head-on, ready to emerge stronger on the other side. Finally, the day arrived when I could call the luxury apartment my new home. The morning sun filtered through the large windows, casting a warm glow on the sleek marble floors, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere that had enveloped my previous residence. My mother-in-law, Ellen, stood beside me, her eyes scanning the spacious living room that overlooked the city skyline. "I can't believe this is ours now," Ellen whispered, a hint of awe in her voice. I smiled at her, feeling a mix of excitement and relief. "It's a fresh start for us, Ellen, one we both deserve." As we unpacked, the doorbell rang. I glanced at Ellen, puzzled, not expecting anyone. I walked over to the intercom and pressed the button. "Yes, who's there?" "It's me, Michael. We need to talk," came the reply, his voice strained and anxious. I hesitated, feeling a wave of emotions wash over me. I hadn't seen Michael since the day I left our old house. Taking a deep breath, I responded, "Give me a moment. I'll come down." Ellen looked at me, concern etching her features. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" I nodded, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "I need to face this, once and for all." I opened the door and saw Michael standing on the doorstep, his posture an unfamiliar tension. Next to him stood Emily, holding a baby in her arms, as he said it was Emily's baby. The sight of them together, with the baby in Emily's arms, was shocking to say the least. "Sarah, we need to talk," Michael said, his voice lacking its usual confidence. Ellen, who had come to see who was at the door, froze in place. Unspoken words and tension hovered in the room, and Ellen and I exchanged perplexed glances. "Michael, what is it?" Ellen's voice broke the silence, shock and disapproval evident in his words. It's my daughter," Michael admitted, glancing at Emily, who remained silent, dropping her eyes to the floor. Ellen's reaction was immediate and violent. "Your daughter? With Emily?" Disbelief and resentment were evident in her tone, her gaze shifting from the baby to Michael and then to Emily. "Yes, Mom. I'm sorry you had to find out this way," Michael replied, and the gravity of his words hung in the air. "So the name Samantha was your alias, Emily? An undercover name so no one would find out about the affair?" My voice was steady, but a storm of emotions raged inside. Emily's eyes widened slightly, and surprise flashed across her face, but then she pulled herself together. She glanced at Michael, looking for an imperceptible nod or shake of the head, a silent indication of how to proceed. It was clear they hadn't expected this turn of events. "Yes, it was me," Emily finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. We decided then that it was for the best." Her gaze fell to the child who lay in her arms, defiance and shame in her eyes. Michael was silent, his part in this charade obvious but unspoken. The weight of their deception hung heavy in the air, a tangible reminder of the web of lies they had woven to conceal their actions. Voice Emily shaky. "Yes, we've lost everything. We don't know where to turn." I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "Sorry doesn't undo the hurt you caused, the lies, or the betrayal. What did you expect, coming here?" Michael's eyes darted away, unable to meet my gaze. "We thought, maybe you could help us, for old times' sake." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Old times? You mean when you told me to find a cheap apartment and leave my own house? Or when you laughed in my face about the divorce?" Emily bit her lip, tears welling up. "We didn't know it would come to this. We're family, aren't we?" "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me," I said firmly. "You made your choices, and now you have to live with them. I've moved on. Ellen and I have built a new life here, one that doesn't include you." Michael's shoulders slumped, the weight of his actions finally dawning on him. "So that's it then? You're just going to turn us away?" Ellen turned to me, her expression deeply apologetic, as if Michael's actions were her own that she had to atone for. Then, turning to Michael, she said with a firmness I had time to admire, "I can't believe you could bring this on us, Michael. After everything that's happened, how could you?" Michael tried to explain, his words coming out mixed with excuses and pleas for understanding. "Mom, please, I know I made mistakes, but he's still your grandson. I thought—" Ellen interrupted him, her resolve unwavering. "I thought you had some respect left for this family, for Sarah. But I see I was wrong. You've made your choice, Michael. Now you have to live with it." Turning to me, Ellen put her hand on my shoulder in silent solidarity. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her gaze conveying a depth of sympathy and shared grief. I nodded, squeezing her hand in response. "It's not your fault, Ellen. We've gotten through this, and we will continue to do so." Turning to Michael and Emily, I found strength in supporting Ellen and the new life we'd built. "Michael, you'd better go. We've closed the chapter on this part of our lives. It's time for you to do the same." As they turned to leave, the finality of the moment washed over us. Ellen and I returned to the sanctuary of our apartment, and the door closed behind us like a barrier against the chaos of the past. Together we met each challenge, each revelation with a resilience forged by our shared experience and the unbreakable bond we had created in the face of adversity. As I stood by the expansive windows of our luxury apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and pink, I felt a profound sense of peace. My mother-in-law, Ellen, joined me, her presence a comforting constant in my life since we embarked on this new chapter together. "Look at that sky, Sarah," Ellen murmured, her voice tinged with wonder. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" I nodded, my heart swelling with gratitude. "It is. It's moments like these that remind me of how much we've overcome and how much we have to look forward to." Ellen placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, squeezing lightly. "I never thought we'd find such peace after everything that happened, but here we are, thanks to you." I turned to face her, shaking my head. "Not just me, Ellen. We did this together. You've been my rock through all of this." A comfortable silence settled between us as we returned our gaze to the skyline. After a moment, I spoke again. "I've been thinking about starting a small business, Ellen. Something that's ours. What do you think?" Ellen's eyes lit up with interest. "Really? What kind of business?" "Maybe a cafe or a bookstore. A place that feels like home, where people can come to find peace, just like we did here." "That sounds wonderful, Sarah. Count me in," Ellen said, her voice laced with enthusiasm. "We've weathered the storm together. It's time we chase our dreams, too." As we discussed our plans, I realized that this was more than just a new beginning. It was a testament to our resilience, a beacon of hope for a future filled with possibilities. The pain and betrayal that once threatened to break me had instead paved the way for growth and new beginnings. "Let's do it, Ellen. Let's build something beautiful together," I said, my voice steady and full of determination. Ellen smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I can't wait, Sarah. With you by my side, I believe we can do anything." As the sky darkened and the city lights began to twinkle, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together. Our journey had taught me the power of resilience, the importance of family, and the unbreakable bond that we shared. Here, in our new home, with the curtains wide open and our hearts filled with hope, I knew we were ready to embrace whatever came our way.